Hello everyone, thank you for joining me for another entry into our reading journal. I hope you are all having an amazing day, night, afternoon, whatever it is where you are. Today we're going to be talking about Gilded. Gilded is... Wow, it's bright. Today we're going to be talking about Gilded. Gilded, the synopsis of Gilded, according to Storygraph, is Marissa Miller's #1 New York Times bestselling author returns to the fairy tale world with this haunting retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. Long ago, cursed by the god of lies, a poor miller's daughter has developed a talent for spinning stories that are fantastical and spellbinding and entirely untrue. Or so everyone believes. When one of Cerilda's outlandish tales draws the attention of a sinister Earl King and his undead hunters, she finds herself swept away into a grim world where ghouls and phantoms prowl the earth and hollow-eyed ravens track her every move. The king orders Cerilda to complete an impossible task of spinning straw into gold or to be killed for telling falsehoods. In her desperation, Cerilda unwillingly summons a mysterious boy to her aid. He agrees to help her for a price. Love isn't meant to be part of the bargain. Soon, Cerilda realizes that there's more than one secret hidden in the castle walls, including an ancient curse that must be broken if she hopes to end the tyranny of the king and his wild hunt forever. So, it's not listed as romance. I thought it was listed as romance. It is not. It is fiction, fantasy, young adult, which I'm like, you know what? I can see all of those. I can see all of that. Hi, Steve. This is Steve, everybody. He's decided just to lay right there. So I really like the whole wave of fairy tale retellings that have been going on. I love a good fairy tale retelling. And Rumpelstiltskin retelling was not something I thought I would be into, especially after my last book I read was A Touch of Ruin. So I was kind of like, do I want to? But this one I also got from TikTok, so there you go. It's a mixed bag is pretty much all it is. And in the world of Gilded, you have Cerilda, who was, yes, blessed by the god of lies. Oh, hi, Steve. Oh, okay. Blessed by the god of lies. And she has, I guess if you're blessed by the gods, you get like this gold ring around your like irises. So everybody's like, oh no, she's been blessed by a god, but they're like, it's a god of lies, so you can't ever trust her. So she grows up telling these fantastical stories, telling all of these things to the children, her classmates, anybody who will listen to her. And so nobody believes a word she says because it's like, god of lies, dadoy, why would we trust that? Which I can see from their perspective. So she grows up in this. In this book, she's younger, like, you know, but she's out of school. She's, I'm gonna say like 19-ish. I think it tells her age in the book, but I don't remember. So in the book, she's there. She's a teacher, or she's a teacher's assistant. Like, she helps the teacher with the school-age children. And in this world, it's very medieval-ish. It's very depressing. Every month in this world, the Earl King, which is a Fae king, who he brings his court of people out on the hunt, and the hunt is something to be feared. So every month, like all of the humans, the mortals everywhere lock themselves in. They lock themselves in. They put wax in their ears, and because in the hunt, I guess they have, I don't remember if it was drums or trumpets or music or singing or whatever, but there's a sound that's associated with it. And if, oh, hi, Percy. I have both of them here today. I don't know. why Steve's just like, I'm gonna chew on your fingers. But there's a sound associated with it, and if you hear that sound, you get pulled out into the hunt. And once you're pulled out into the hunt, you're either never found again, or you're found like dead on the side of a road somewhere. Would you stop pushing my stuff? Can I have things on my desk? What was I saying? Jeez, they're shaking everything. Yeah, you're found dead on the side of the road. People don't really know what the hunt is. They just know it's bad. Like, children are taken sometimes, like family members are taken, so it's something to be feared. And it happens every single month. And we open up on this book where it's the start of a new hunt. And Cyrilda, the main character in this book, who was blessed by the god of lies, she's trying her best to be like, all right, I'm just gonna like duck my head under my pillow and we're just gonna go. It's just her and her father, because when she was a child, her mother was taken by the hunt and is never seen again. And her dad is telling people like she ran off, she left us alone, or she went off over here and died for something, kind of to save face. So this hunt's going on every month, and this particular month, Cyrilda hears noises outside and like people freaking out, trying to figure out like, what are we gonna do? We need to hide. We need, like, panicking. And so she decides she wants to help. She's going to be a good Samaritan. She's going to help. And she goes out and sees these two, like, I know I said it in the last video, nymphs, but I don't know what they are. These little, like, plant people. And they're trying to break into her storage area to hide in her cellar, to hide from the hunt. Because it is also, not only does it draw people out like that, it is a legit hunt. Like, the Earl King hunts for things. Him and his court, they hunt down, we find later, mythical beings, mostly, and things that he wants to add to his collection. And he likes more rare things. So that's, he likes to hunt down these forest people, and they're trying to hide from him because they're away from home. And so she's like, all right, I'm gonna help you out. And we're going to disguise your scents, rub onions on yourselves and everything. They go in there, and she tries to make it to her house and, you know, go in there before the Earl King and his court come. However, they catch her outside, and she tells this, like, fantastical story on how she is out in the middle of the night during a hunt of the full moon to get a specific type of straw so she can spin it into gold. And at first he doesn't believe her. He's like, obviously you're lying to me and I'm gonna kill you for it. And she's like, no. She's like, look at my eyeballs. You see that gold ring? This is from the god of spinning, or the god of gold, and it looks, you know, like a wheel. They're like, okay, well, maybe so. And he's intrigued enough that he lets her go, but he tells her that he'll be back for her to see what she can do. And so she's like, okay. She's really excited. She's not dead. She gets to go in the house, and then, you know, they leave, and she wakes up, everything. She's like, did that really happen? Or was that like some really weird dream? And she goes down in the cellar. She can't see the little forest people. She's like, okay, I'm gonna go about my normal life. And she goes about her normal life, telling these children, these school-aged children, all of these, just story after story, because they're always like, tell us a story. School is really boring. Tell us a story. Every time they're preparing things, they just tell us a story. And she does. So she entertains the children. And so she's going about her normal life, and a large part of this story is told in kind of pieces throughout this story. I'm gonna tell you the whole story. It's back long ago, in the way back when the Earl King had a wife, his mate, his queen, and she was the queen of the night court. the Earl King had a wife, his mate, his queen, and she wanted children. And they couldn't have a child themselves, but she wanted a child because I believe she was the goddess of death. Something having to do with that. And so she wanted children, and they could not have children, and she was very upset by that. She was like, I want a child. So what the Earl King decided to do was to kidnap human children for his wife, for his queen. And he would kidnap these young children from nearby villages and everything, and like around, and she would get really happy. She'd treat them like dolls, and once they got too big, she'd be like, I don't want this one anymore. I'm done with this one. I want a new child. So the Earl King would go out and would kill these children most of the time. Sometimes he'd let them go, but most of the time he would kill the older children once they got to about teenagers, and go off and find another child and bring her back another child. So this became this whole cycle. And one time he went out to kidnap a child, he kidnapped a princess. And he kidnapped this princess. He thought, this is the perfect child for my wife, my bride. This is the perfect child. She will love this child. And it was a princess. So he takes the princess back to their court to give to his bride. And her brother goes after her and tries to save her. And it's a classic type of fairy tale that's told within the book, like in that whole world. It's fully encompassing in this story. And he goes after her. He has these golden arrows that are supposed to be magical. So he goes after the Earl King, goes to his court, and shoots the Night Queen and kills her. And the story that we're told at the beginning is he shoots her, he kills her, and he's able to save his sister, and they're able to live happily ever after. But the Earl King is devastated. He's devastated. It doesn't tell what happens to him in this story, but he's devastated, and he just starts being angry, and that's when he started taking over the mortal world, was because he was angry. They killed his queen, and so you're hearing little bits and pieces of this story in between chapters or at the end of chapters of kind of what's going on. And so the next month comes around, and Gilded is kidnapped and taken to the Night Court. She's given straw and told by the Earl King that if she needs to spin this straw into gold. If she doesn't, she's dead. He'll kill her. And he'll kill her dad. And he'll kill the kids that she watches, and that whole village. So she bluffs at him. She's trying to lie her way out of it. And then she's like, okay, once he leaves her to her task, it has to be done by dawn. Because during the hunt is when his court and the mortal world, I guess the veil between them is open, so he can freely go into the mortal world, and that's what he does. And he goes around, he hunts, he does all of that stuff, and everything has to be done by dawn, because by dawn the veil closes and he has to be back in his court, and if she has to be gone. So she's like, I can't spin this into gold. I have no idea. I was blessed by a completely different god, and it's gonna get me killed. So she's crying, she's upset, and she's like, something, please help me. Something help me. Somebody help. And up turns this guy. This guy with red hair, and he's there, and he's surprised by her. He thinks she's a ghost. and she's not, and she thinks that he's a part of the night court. So they have some back and forth, and he agrees to help her with her task if she gives him a prize. Like she has to give him something. So she gives him a necklace that she got from the forest people that they left there as a gift. So she gives him the necklace that they left, and she's like, all right, here, this is what I got. And so he gets to work, and he spins all the straw into gold. And it's rolled around. She's intrigued, and she's just like, how did you do that? And he's like, I don't know, it's something I can do. She's trying to figure out who he is, and he's kind of standoffish, but really excited that she's not a part of the night court of the Earl King's like whole court. So he's just like, okay, so you're not controlled by him. That's very neat. And he's like, well, we're done with this. And morning comes. The Earl King is before morning comes, the Earl King's super excited that she spun all this gold for him. He was like, great, see you next month. And then dawn shows up, and the night court disappears. She realizes she's in a crumbly castle. She tries to find her way out. There's some monsters in it, and she's freaking out, so she leaves. And there's a town around this castle where it's a flourishing town. Like, there's just, everybody's out there. Everybody's kind of freaking out that she's around. They're like, where did she come from? Who are you? And she finds somebody that she's able to be like, I need to go home. I need to go home. I was taken by the Earl King, and I need to go home. This person sees the gold around her eyes, realizes she was blessed by a god, and is just like, I need you to leave and never come back. And Serilda's like, I'm trying to work on it. That's the plan. She goes back to her village, tells her dad kind of what's going on. Like, so funny story, because he's freaking out because she's not there, and he's freaking out. And it's like, okay, well, next month, we have to hide from him. We have to run from the Earl King. We can't stay around. We can't let him have you because he already took your mother from me. And so we're not going to tell anybody because the ravens are his spies. So we can't tell anybody. They're around. Everybody's watching. We are going to sneakily leave. And throughout the next month, she's still telling the stories to the children. And the town is still kind of going on what it is. The lady she works for, the teachers, they keep calling her a hag and an old witch. And she's getting kind of suspicious of, what are you doing? Because Serilda's getting really emotional with the children, and because she has to leave them. And her dad starts selling off furniture when he works like construction type jobs. So he goes off into next town, selling off furniture, anything of value to get them money so they can leave. And right before the next hunt happens, they get enough money, they go traveling to a different town. And their plan is to just travel and travel and travel and travel until the Earl King loses interest in her. So while they're traveling, they put cotton in their ears, like cloth and cotton, and then seal their ears with wax so they can't hear the song. They don't hear the song and they hide. They're like, the Earl King can't find us. Like, this is a great plan. It's obviously gonna work. And Serilda wakes up during the hunt and realizes her dad is missing. He is not there. So she freaks out. She's like, all right, he's not here. She goes to find him. The horse is gone that they rode in on, and the Earl King finds her, pulls her up onto one of their horses, and she sees her dad there. She's trying to talk some sense into him. She sees that, yes, one of the wax things kind of fell out a little bit. So her dad heard the song, and he's there. She's trying to talk some sense into him, but he has this look of elation on his face. He's so happy, so excited, so exhilarated, and he's just riding their old horse just super hard and following the Earl King. And so they're going, and she feels that exhilaration too. So she's not fighting against it too hard. And when they get close to the night court, her dad falls off, like not off the horse, but it's like the horse kind of gave out and just fell a little. And so she see her dad go off that way. She starts freaking out, and the Earl King's like, we're not stopping. And so they keep going. She's like, hopefully he's still alive. And they take her back to the night court. He gives her more straw to spin. He's like, now you have to spin all this into gold. And she calls him Gild, the boy who comes in. She calls him Gild. And so Gild shows up, and she's freaking out. She gives him, I forget what other thing she gives him. She gives him something else to make into gold. So he starts working on that, and in the lull times, they kind of talk of what's going on. She's asking him questions about the night court, and the Earl King takes people. He can take their spirits from the mortal world, bring them back to the night court. The people that he wants to keep, like the people who interest him. He said a lot of people are prisoners here. The people who made it from the hunt, they're all trapped here. So the crumbly castle turns into this huge, like, Halloween-esque mansion castle with ghost people working in the little town below. And so that's always there for them in the night court. And she can see it during the hunt because the veil is lifted. So he's like, all of them are there, but they're all prisoners and servants of the Earl King. He can see what most of them see. They can't hide secrets from him. They're all compelled to tell him things, to let him know what's going on. And we find out that Gild is a nuisance for the Earl King. The Earl King can't control Gild. And because he can't control him, Gild has decided that he is gonna gym it up. He is just prank after prank on the Earl King just to bug him. And so she's like, okay, well, that's interesting to know. That's super fascinating. He spins the straw into gold, and she's like, all right, cool. And so they're able to do that. They start hanging out a little bit. She's able to find him during one of I think it's a holiday. She goes to the castle after the hunt and is able to kind of hear him. The veil is still there, but they can still kind of push each other a little bit. And she finds out that he makes these little gold figurines. He spins gold and weaves it into this like mesh gold figurines, and then he throws those figurines out into the ocean, like this ocean lake thing. So out into the water. And the people down below, they have a celebration once a year to where they all go and dive for these figurines. And that's how they've been surviving. That's how they make their money. And it takes her a long time and a lot of digging to find this out. But she does, and she's like, wow, these people worship you. And he said that he used to watch them from the towers and watch like a single person as a family grow up and grow old. And he was like, I remember watching them from hundreds of years ago, or 100 years ago, 200 years ago. He's like, I don't know how long I've been here. I don't know where I came from. I don't know what's going on. And so she's there, she's finding out all this stuff. She's trying to figure out who used to live in this castle, because she finds out the Earl King, this was not originally his castle. He took it over and he decided to set up base there. And when she's trying to find this out, she finds out that nobody knows who that castle belongs to. Nobody knows who used to rule that area. There's nothing in any history books. There's nothing in any like bureaucratic papers like deeds and titles and taxes and all of this stuff. There's mention of the towns and people. They go to the cemetery. They find like the oldest looking stuff. and they see a giant tombstone. They're like, okay, that could be for somebody who lived in that castle. It's like this giant monument thing. They go there, and everything looks as you think it would during, you know, something that's been there for hundreds of years. And she goes to see the little nameplate, and it's like it was sanded, what's the word? Smooth. Like there's no writing there. There's no name, where it looks like there would be initials. Because, you know, like people who have castles, they have their initials all over the place. All of that stuff is like sanded down. It's like it never was. You can't tell any of that. She's like, that's weird. And she finds out all of this stuff while trying to figure out who Gild is, why the Earl King is there. And while she's exploring one of the castles, because there's stained glass, she's like, maybe if I go into this castle and I'll be able to find out what's going on. She goes into this one room, and there's they call them a terror. There's a terror in there that is guarding something in a cage. And it's in the middle of the cage. It's covered with something, and she's almost able to see it, like see what's on it when she's attacked. Gild saves her because he's able to kind of like ghost rolls, like he's able to push objects and things. He can't really physically interact with things, but he can push stuff and expel that energy. He saves her by doing that. She leaves, and she decides that, like, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know what to do. And every time she talks to Gild, they hang out, they start becoming friends, and they start developing feelings for each other. And one of the times that she's there spinning gold for him, he's done with the gold super quickly, so he takes her on a little tour of the area, and he shows her where his figurines are, and she asks why he's able to make gold but she has to pay for it. And he's like, I don't know where I got this power from. I just know that's how it works. You have to pay for the magic. It's like, I can spin for myself, but if I want to spin for anybody, you gotta pay for it. And she's trying to figure out all of this information of what's going on. She's not really able to. But during a hunt, she's trying to find out all this information, but she's not able to. And then before the next hunt, she finds out that her dad is dead, and the horse is dead as well. As she's trying to walk back towards her village, she's kidnapped by the little forest people that she saved, and a bunch of others. She's taken into this enchanted forest where they're like, nobody goes to the enchanted forest. And there's a bunch of these little plant people and mushroom people and everything. They tell her that the king hunts them. The Earl King hunts them down, and he likes to torture them and keep their heads as trophies in his trophy hall. He has a huge trophy hall in that castle. And that, you know, thank you for saving them, but if he wants you for some reason, you can't go back. He can't have you for whatever nefarious reason he wants to. We're not going to let that happen. While they're trying to brainstorm what's going to happen, they're just like, well, if we can't do it, we're going to kill you. And she's able to talk her way out of it. She's like, oh, I can figure out how to get out of this. And they're like, well, we don't think you can. She's like, well, what's the worst that can happen if you don't? You're going to kill me? And go ahead. So they let her go. She goes back to her village, and she's trying to act normal. She tells people that her dad is often in their town on a job, and so she'll be by herself. And so she's like, all right, just trying to figure out how to solve this whole puzzle of how to stay alive, how not to help the Earl King, and figure out what Gild is and help him, because he needs help. And the teacher that she works for, the one they call a hag and a witch, she finds out that she's been working for the forest people. Like, she worships the forest people. She's been trying to help them out. She's like their servant. So the plan they come up with is that they're going to kill her. They're going to kill Serilda. She's going to take this whole Romeo and Juliet thing. She's going to take a potion. She's going to die. And the Earl King's going to see that she's dead, and she's going to be released from her oath. And they're like, that's the plan. So the teacher gets some poison and everything together. There's a whole thing to where she has to have a certain branch. She has to go through this certain ritual to make sure that she can be pulled back from death. So they go through this ritual. The Earl King finds her on the night of the hunt at dead. And they think that she's faking it, and so they're trying to like, nope, she's really dead. She sees this from her kind of ghost world, and she's fighting to stay there so she doesn't get taken off into the afterlife. And so she's there. The Earl King's like, well, that's a waste. And he leaves. The witch is able to bring her back to life, and when she gets up, she's like, all right, I'm back. Everything's fine. Was able to do this. I can figure out how to get out of this. And then that's when they hear screaming. In that morning, they find out that the Earl King was upset. And so he took all the children that she taught, like all the children in her school age thing, like all the ones that she liked, he took them. And so she's freaking out, and she's like, all right, I have to go back. She steals a horse, runs off and to the castle to try and get there. And while she's going over there, she finds one of the children's bodies in the road. And so she's freaking out, but she's like, you know what, I know that child's spirit is still going to be stuck in the night court. So I can save that child. I can save their spirit. So she continues to go. And she's able to get into the night court through a veil. She realizes that the story that they've been telling in there, the story of the prince, is that prince is Gild. The Earl King stole the princess, who he thought was blessed by the same god that she told him that she was blessed by, the god of gold. He thought the child was blessed by that god. So that's part of the reason why he stole her. And when he stole her, and then Gild showed up, shot him with some magic arrows, and shot the Night Queen with some magic arrows and killed her. So he killed her. He was trying to save his sister, but the Earl King, they took it back to the castle. The Earl King was upset. He is pissed, not just upset. He is pissed. He came back to their castle, because that was their castle, and slaughtered everyone. He killed everyone, and he made Gild watch. And he trapped Gild there by using one of the magic arrows and stabbing it through his hand and into the castle, which keeps his body there, but his spirit is stuck in that realm. Like, his spirit and body detach. So his spirit's still there, but the Earl King can't control him, and his body is still trapped. And the Earl King keeps it safe. So that's how Gild got to stay there. And she sees all of this, and all of it's clicking, and it's clicking that the stories that she's been telling, because she's been telling this whole story of Gild this whole time to these children. And she's like, so these are not lies. That's okay. These are not lies. This is kind of what's happening. And she's able to get into the night court, and she's freaking out trying to find Gild there. She's like, I need his help. And she's like, I have to find these children. I have to save them. I have to get out of here. She hears a lot of voices into this courtyard area. She finds Gild. He is strung up with ropes of gold against this pillar. And he's being stabbed and poked with spears. So the Earl King has been using the gold that she's been weaving and made ropes, because gold is the only thing that can trap Gild. that can hold him down, really. And it's the only thing that can hold down magical creatures and gods. So in this world, on the night of the hunt, if you trap a god and then let him go, the god will grant you a wish. The Earl King is trying to get his queen back with one of those wishes. So that's what he's been doing. And that's why the amount of gold that he's been having her spin has been getting up there and up there and up there. It was like first like a shelf full, then a bookshelf, then like a room. And so all of this is clicking into place for her as she's there. The Night King is like, oh, there you are. I didn't think you were really dead. Well, he has the children around him. And he's telling her that she will need to spin gold right here in front of everybody for the lives and spirits of the children. And so he conjures up a spindle right there. She looks at Gild and she's like, okay, let me just do this. And then she sits there for a second and then she's like, well, I can't. And he's like, aha, you are a liar. And she's like, well, I can't right now because of reasons that I want to tell you, but not everybody around. Can we go speak in private? And he's humoring her. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. He's like, but I'm still gonna kill you. She tells him that she is pregnant, and the reason that she cannot spin gold is because the blessing that was bestowed upon her is now going to her child. So she can't spin gold because she doesn't have that blessing anymore. The child does. And he's disgusted. Absolutely disgusted. He's like, that's gross. He brings in a doctor, or the spirit of a doctor. And so the doctor's like, yep, she's totally knocked up. And she's like, yeah, I knew. Because she can count. And he's like, all right, so in order to stop this child from taking the blessing, we're gonna get rid of the child. As she starts freaking out, and the doctor's like, okay, I can do that. It'll be tricky, but I can do it. And so she starts telling him that no, if he does that, the god will be angry and will take away the blessing completely. And he's like, oh yeah, gods do be vengeful. That sounds about right. So he's like, all right, so you're gonna marry me. That's gonna be my child. And you're gonna stay here. And then that's how it's gonna be. She's just like, it's not your child. That's gross. And he's like, I don't like you. I don't want you. I will never touch you. He's like, that's ewy. We're just gonna do this so nobody else can claim that baby. And she's like, okay. And he's like, if you don't do this, these children will be destroyed. So it's like, all right, for the children. And she's like, for Gild. She's like, I'll do this now, and I'll figure out how to save Gild after this, figure out how to save the kids after this. And so she's like, all right, good, I'll do that. And so he takes out one of those special arrows and shoots her, I think in the leg. And the same thing that happened to Gild happened to her. So her spirit splits from her body, and her body will stay there, and that's how she can be kept in the night court. Well, this is happening. And he goes out, and he's like, all right, well, tells his court, we're gonna have a wedding. And this freaks out Gild. And the fun part is that the last time that he spun gold for her, she didn't have any trinkets or anything, and she was freaking out. And so she offers her firstborn child to Gild. And that's how it brought all the way back around to that Rumpelstiltskin retelling. And then when she started counting, she's like, because of all of the events going on, she's like, I haven't been keeping track. And then she starts counting. She's like, oh. And then she's like, well, guilds. So I was like, oh shit, dog, that is fantastic. And that's how the first book ends. Like, that's how the first book ends. Like, after all these revelations come in, everything that was put into the books before start clicking into place, I was like, I think I legit gasped a lot during that last little bit. I really enjoyed it. I haven't listened or read to the second book yet, but it's definitely on my list. And I'm really excited about it. I want to see how this goes. The way that she was not, like, I guess, cursed, blessed by the god of lies, is the god of stories. So every story that she has been telling has been true, has been something that happened in the past. And it is the story of Gild. It was the story of the Elder King. It was a story of the forest people. All the stories that she tells was all part of that, and that was fantastic. And I really enjoyed how that happened. I really enjoyed how she was the appropriate level of cunning and smart that they said she was. I really enjoy when, like, they have stories where they're like, okay, this person is not going to be the best person, or people completely underestimate these, usually the female characters. They completely underestimate them, and they're like, no, let me show you how I'm better. And that was great. She showed a lot of people throughout that whole book, and I was just like, yes, go you. I really enjoy that. And so I'm excited to read the next one. Hopefully I'll be able to put it into the reading journal. I have a whole list of TBR. Since it's not a book that I own, it's kind of gone on the back burner until I can get through a lot of my books that I owned. I'm working on it. And that'll definitely be in here, but out of even using the compile system, I rated it a 4 out of 3. It was really enjoyable. Especially it was after the Touch of Ruin and the books I was reading, like, kind of before that I got from TikTok. It was just like, this was refreshing. When she was stupid, it was understandable on why she was acting rashly and not as intelligently as she should have. Like, it makes sense. It tells you what's going on surrounding her, that you're like, oh, okay, you know what? I get that. And the way she played the Earl King so much, I was just like, yes, I like you, person. But yeah, that was it. That was Gild. Thank you guys so much for sticking around, hanging out, and listening to me talk about Gilded. Really liked it. Like I said, it was a 4.3, so I rated it a 4 out of 5 on, I think a 4.5 out of 5 on Storygraph. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all of that. I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, afternoon, whatever it is where you are. All my links are down in the description of where I'm at on just about everything. So I will hopefully talk to you guys later. Bye.